Bruckner, well known as a symphonic composer. You need a bit of time to listen to Bruckner. He goes on for a long time, but it all makes sense and it's very powerful. When I was in my early 20s, people were just a bit iffy about Bruckner. Is it a bit too big and fat? And actually, he had one or two champions, notably a friend of mine who was always talking about Bruckner and Mahler, his friend Mahler, who came a little bit later, and really singing their praises. And it wasn't till later that I started to listen to Bruckner symphonies. In fact, at the second symphony he wrote near Liverpool Street, there's a plaque of him. This, Os Justi, takes a wonderful part of Psalm 37 about the just man, and he meditabitur, he meditates on, his heart considers wisdom, and there's a meditative sort of opening, just these chords and then basses on their own. Just beautiful whole chords, concords like that, which gently develop. And then you suddenly realize that there actually aren't any sharps and flats in the whole thing. And that's because he decided, because his friend who asked for it was a member of the Sicilian movement, I don't quite know why you need to do the Lydian mode as a result of that, but he did the whole thing in the Lydian mode. So here's F, and you'll see from here that there are no sharps and flats, but it starts and ends in F major, and there's no key signature. So the fourth should be that in F major, a B flat, but in fact it's B natural, consistently all the way through with no modulating at all. So he starts off like that, gentle, and you can imagine it in St. Florian's wonderful church with marble everywhere and beautiful high ceilings and white, creamy white marble. You then hear a fugato section, which just means a bit of a fugue, the beginning of a fugue. And altos, then sopranos, and then in come the tenors, and then back in come the sopranos again, and altos. So we have a little bit of a fugue. He was quite an academically minded fellow. Although he wrote these huge, very powerful symphonies and knew knew Wagner well, he was an extremely humble man. He was absolutely the opposite of Wagner. Very gentle. In fact, OCD, they called it numeromania in those days, his sort of condition. And to our great benefit, of course, how wonderful that he thought like that. And so he was very gentle and humble and didn't bang on about his work in any way. He just let other people judge it. Halfway through, Lex Dei Eus, he goes back to homophony, all singing the same syllables at the same time is homophony. In corde, in his heart. God's statutes are in his heart. And then again, there's this glorious, for the second time, he suddenly goes into glorious 8-part harmony. Wonderful. And you can imagine it going right up to the roofs. And then gently, in corde, they're ruling in his heart, in corde. And then it was stated that he hadn't set all of the words. And so he added Alleluia and In Veni Domini and things. But I like to do it just as he did, without the Alleluia after it. And so that's how we do it. At the very end, we have et non supplantabuntur. I love supplantabuntur. It's a long Latin word, and it looks as if it's passive, but in fact it's active, a deponent verb, I think it's called. Et non supplabantur, his footsteps will not falter. So they've non supplabantur, they won't falter. And it just ends as it would if John Tavener, modern John Tavener, were writing it, with these lovely chords and the soprano singing a little tune. And that's where it finishes.